Good morning. We will give just a few moments for folks to clear the waiting room and make sure that everyone has connected to audio so that they can hear us. Thank you all for being with us this morning. We'll give just another moment to clear the waiting room. As a reminder, when you are entering from the waiting room, please remain on mute unless or until you are appearing or testifying before the board.
It's me.
Good morning. This is a hearing before the licensing board for the city of Boston. Today is Tuesday, October 31st, 2023. Today's hearing is being held pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Boston's website. Before I review procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman of the Board, Kathleen Joyce.
Thank you, Danny. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm Chair of the Boston Licensing Board, and today I am joined by Commissioner Liam Curran and Commissioner Kiana Saxon.
Thank you. Please ensure that your audio and visuals are working properly. I will call each item in the order that it appears on this morning's agenda. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the licensee, who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department, and whether there are any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify. I will then swear in all parties. After that, the police report will be read into the record, and the licensee or their representative will have the opportunity to make a brief statement, followed by questions by the chair and commissioners. Again, all testimony will be limited only to those individuals with firsthand personal knowledge of the alleged incident. We'll begin with the first item on this morning's agenda, calling item number 1, Tavern in the Square Causeway Street, LLC, doing business as Tavern in the Square, located at 120 Beverly Street. Date of the incident, May 29th, 2023. Overcrowded, 199 on mechanical count. Capacity 179, house count 179, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.03J and 1.06A and F. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Sal Gismondo.
Thank you, Mr. Desmondo. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective Walsh.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Detective William Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Detective Walsh, if you could please proceed with reading the police report into the record.
About 8:17 p.m. Monday, May 29th, 2023, A1 detectives, along with the licensed premise unit, conducted a Code 35 licensed premise inspection at Tavern in the Square, 96 Beverly Street, Boston. Detectives observed the bar restaurant appeared to be overcrowded during the inspection. Detectives observed from the licenses the capacity to be 179. Asked the person in charge, Howard Pierre, what the house count was, who responded 179. Detective Hernandez conducted a mechanical count, which revealed 199. Licensed premise citation 061172 issued, signed and accepted by Howard Pierre. All staff was cooperative and courteous during the inspection.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gismondo, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yeah, just a careless count on our behalf. Nothing that's, we're usually very diligent about counts. We usually go around on an hourly basis and do counts. So obviously just a misstep there with just a small number there. So we've obviously taken it to the team and to remind them that they should be doing hourly counts.
Thank you. We'll see if there are any questions from the board. Chairwoman Joyce.
Is there somebody working the door that counts, or how does it work at your establishment?
Yeah, so we have Howard Pierre is actually the door guy, the head door guy. So he has a mechanical count at the door. And then at least every hour, if not more, depending on the flow of business, the manager will have Harold hold the door. And then we'll go around, or a manager will go around and do a physical count and then say to him, hey, adjust, you're at, 180. You need to hold the door, let people come out before you can let anybody else in. So we do have that set. We actually have our iPads at the front of the restaurant set for a timer to remind you to do those counts.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't have any other questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon?
I have no questions. Thank you.
None for me, thank you.
Thank you very much. The board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Calling item number 261 Brookline Restaurant LLC, doing business as Loco Taqueria and Oyster Bar located at 61 Brookline Ave. Date of the incident, April 16th, 2023. Patron on patron assault in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee. With us this morning, Mike Shaw, who's the manager of record of the establishment. Good morning.
Morning. Thank you for being with us. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Good morning, Dario Fancelli, Lieutenant with the Boston Police.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Thank you. Can you both please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Lieutenant Fancelli, if you could please proceed with the police report.
Good morning. At about 6:55 p.m. on Sunday, April 16th, Officer Langham, assigned to the Delta 445, responded to a radio call for a fight at located at 61 Brookline Ave. On arrival, officers met the staff at Loco, who stated the suspect fled down Brookline Ave towards Park Drive. Loco staff informed officers that the victim was still inside and willing to speak to the officers. The victim met with officers outside the front entrance of the establishment, holding a towel to his nose and face to stop his bleeding. The victim was placed in an ambulance for further treatment. A witness reported that the victim was standing at the bar when the suspect approached the victim and struck him in the face with a glass bottle. The witness stated that the suspect punched the victim twice, 2 to 3 times with a closed fist to the temple area. Description of the suspect was broadcast. The victim, later identified as Mr. Campidelli, stated that earlier in the evening he was inside Loco Bar when a shorter Hispanic male wearing a white Red Sox shirt bumped into him. Mr. Campidelli stated there was an exchange where he attempted to sit on a stool, and the male bumped him off with his lower body. The victim stated at this time the suspect struck him in the face with a glass bottle, causing him to fall to the ground. Mr. Campidelli states the suspect was that this attack was unprovoked. The victim was not transported to the hospital and was left on his own scene. I spoke with the Loco's owner, Mr. Shaw. He stated there were cameras inside the bar. However, because the bar recently opened, the footage was not yet accessible. A license premise citation 26027 was issued. All parties on scene were very cooperative with officers from the establishment. And a follow-up investigation revealed that there was no weapon used, there was no bottle used at all. And this was a closed fist punch to the victim.
Thank you very much. Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged incident?
If I may, is it Lieutenant Fancelli or Sergeant?
Yes, sir, Lieutenant. Good morning.
Good morning, Lieutenant. The inspection notice indicates that the police were called by the establishment. It suggests, is that correct?
That is correct.
And that they cooperated with you in your investigation.
Fully cooperative.
And then with regard to the video, I know he suggested it might not be available, but indeed the video was given to Detective Teixeira afterwards. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you did determine through that, or it was determined through that video, that indeed there was no bottle, it was a fist.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I have no further questions for the lieutenant. I may just ask Mr. Shaw quickly. Mr. Shaw, just state your name for the record and what your position is with the establishment.
Mike Shaw. I am one of the co-owners at Loco.
And you're also the manager of record.
Yeah, correct.
And did in the night in question, did your staff do everything appropriately in your opinion?
Yeah. We had about 5 or 6 door guys on, 2 male managers, 3 male bartenders. The response time was as quick as it could have been. It was one of those, unavoidable conflicts that happened really quickly, ended really quickly. We obviously reached out to the BPD, who were great. There was a Red Sox game, so they were almost immediately on site. So as far as it went on our end, obviously every time something like this happens, there's a full review, there's security training. But our team, stepped in to de-escalate and separate the parties within seconds.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shaw. The chair, the members may have some questions for you.
Thank you very much. We'll see if there are any questions. Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you. I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Curran, any questions?
Just were the assailants observed prior to this, and did they draw your attention at all prior to this specific incident?
No, neither party actually. They it was one gentleman was on a bar stool and the other kid was walking out. Whatever was said was said. It didn't look, the detectives would know better. It was an oversight on my part. We had opened, I didn't realize that the new camera system was cloud-based. So we were able to get the video to the detectives within a couple hours once we were in touch with our tech guy. There was no issue with either group. Whatever happened, it didn't look like a physical confrontation at first. I think that something was said between the two of them. The one kid was real quick about it. We intervened and we got the police involved as soon as we could and made sure that the guy inside was okay. The other kid was obviously escorted out and then took off down Brookline Ave heading towards Boylston.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you very much. The board will take this matter under advisement as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 3, Los Arrieros Restaurant, Inc., doing business as Los Arrieros Restaurant, located at 13 to 15 Meridian Street in East Boston. Date of the incident, May 25th, 2023. Patron extremely intoxicated in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Over service of patron in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Is present on behalf of the licensee.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Upton for the licensee. With me is Antonio Ospina, the owner. I believe his son, Stephen, who will act as translator, and also Anthony Ospina, his other son.
Thank you very much. Okay, yes, I do see them all. Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant, go ahead, Juan.
Juan Crespo.
And Sergeant Mike Matera.
Thank you very much. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. Who will be reading the police report into the record?
Juan Crespo.
Thank you. You may please proceed.
About 11:10 p.m. on Thursday, 5/25/23, Officer Crespo and Hassan, assigned to the Gold 201, responded to a verbal disturbance at 15 Meridian Street, Los Arrieros, East Boston. Upon arrival, the officers observed three people attempting to hold down the suspect, later identified as Jimmy Castillo Parra. In addition, the officers observed the suspect swinging his arms in an attempt to punch someone. As the officers attempted to gain control of the suspect and place him into handcuffs in order to investigate the situation further, the suspect resisted by tensing his arms and shifting his weight to one side and throwing his body against the other three parties. The officers also observed the suspect to be highly intoxicated and screaming. Once officers got control of the suspect, he was placed in the back of the patrol wagon. In addition, as officers approached the suspect during the initial encounter, at least 10 people in the surrounding area were alarmed, had stopped in their travels, and were vividly watching the suspect's actions. Officer Crespo spoke to Diana Zapata, the suspect's girlfriend, who stated that they were inside Los Arrieros, 15 Meridian Street. At the time, the suspect had stepped outside the establishment. A few moments later, Zapata stated that the suspect walked inside the establishment and started causing a disturbance. Zapata did not know why the suspect acted in this manner. Zapata added that during the verbal altercation, the suspect took her wallet, car keys, and an unknown amount of money. Zapata stated that during the dispute, the suspect punched a male unidentified victim who stepped in to calm the suspect. The officers could not identify the victim because he had left the scene before officers could identify him. The victim stated no physical altercation took place. The officers observed Diana Zapata to be intoxicated as well. The officer spoke to the suspect, who stated that he observed his girlfriend, Zapata, cheating with another guy he had previously recognized. While Officer Crespo attempted to gather the suspect's story, the suspect stated, "Yo la voy a matar," which translates to, "I'm going to have her killed." The suspect also stated that, "I'm going to strike her." The suspect noted no physical altercation took place between him and Diana Zapata. The suspect was placed under arrest for disorderly conduct. The officers observed the suspect to be highly intoxicated. While the officers attempted to identify the suspect and conducted a search incident to arrest of his person, officers located 3 pieces of identification on his person. Both IDs had the suspect's picture, but different names and date of births. Due to the incident initiated inside the bar and the suspect being extremely intoxicated, the patrol supervisor conducted a code 35 13-15 Meridian Street for over-serving patron extremely intoxicated. Officer Crespo assisted with the translation. All parties declined medical attention. The victim was advised of her Mass General Laws 298, and the suspect was also charged with threats to commit a crime and false misuse ID.
Thank you very much, Officer Crespo. Attorney Upton, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Thank you, Attorney Green. Officer, were the owners and managers of Los Arrieros cooperative? when you
Yes,
dealt with them afterwards, and the arrest and the resisting arrest occurred outside the restaurant. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for the officer. If I may ask a few questions of Mr. Ospina. Mr. Ospina, did Jimmy Paras and Diana Zapata come into the bar on May 25th?
Jimmy, Diana, I don't know, but what date?
The date of the incident. May
El
25th.
incidente que si ellos entraron al bar. Ellos entraron. Ellos entraron, pero nadie vendió. And they came into the bar, but nobody served.
Okay, did they order drinks from the bartender? Were they served drinks?
Y pidieron tragos. They asked for drinks, they were not served.
They were not served by the bartender, or they were not served by Mr. Ospina?
¿Quién no los atendió? ¿La mesera o usted? ¿Quién no les dijo que no? Mesera. The server said no. The bartender said no.
Okay, did Mr. Ospina then say no again?
Si usted le volvió a decir que no podía. Sí, yo le fui con él. Yes, he reaffirmed that.
Okay, why were they denied service?
¿Por qué le negaron servicio? Porque estaban tomados. Because they were already intoxicated when they came into the establishment.
Okay, did they leave the bar after being told they would not be served?
Fueron después de que les dijeron que no. Yes.
Okay, were they in the bar for longer than 5 minutes?
¿Cuánto tiempo estuvieron en el bar? ¿Por cuánto? ¿Más de 5 minutos? 2 o 3 minutos estuvieron. More, less, about a little less than 5 minutes.
Okay, did you see them fighting or arguing?
¿Los vio peleando o argumentando? No. No.
Did you hear any police action with them outside?
¿Vio alguna actividad con la policía afuera? Con ellos. ¿Vio alguna actividad? Pero allá en la esquina. No, it was way out of the business where later on, after the business came, after the situation, they called the cops off later on, away from the business.
Did you call the police?
¿Llamó la policía? No.
Why didn't you call the police?
No llamó la policía. Cuando yo mire que está el problema, ya la policía estaba ahí. Because the police was already there.
This was already. Do your video cameras reach out a block away where this incident occurred?
Sus cámaras alcanzan la cuadra completa donde pasó el incidente. No. Not a full block.
So you could not have seen this on video?
No lo puede ver, no lo podía haber visto en el video. No, no.
All right, that's all I have for Mr. Ospina. I'd just like to make a brief wrap up.
Mhm.
This incident occurred outside the premises. It was out of the view of their video. These patrons were in the bar for less than 5 minutes. They did not get served. We do not believe Los Arrieros contributed to their intoxication. They didn't even know there was an arrest going on or any incident outside. Mr. Parra was not a regular. Given the facts in the police report and his behavior, he will be banned from the premises in the future. And we believe that any testimony that he was in there causing a disturbance is not credible. With that, we're glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Attorney Upton and Chairman Joyce. Any questions?
Excuse me, yes, the video that you have inside the bar, does it show them coming and leaving to establish that they were only there 5 minutes and not served? Did you review it at all?
I believe that video would, had it not been erased 3 weeks after the incident, and we didn't get the notice until just last month.
Okay, thank you.
Oh. But we do have the testimony of the owner who was on site.
Thank you. Commissioner Curran, Commissioner Saxon?
No question. Thank you.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you.
Calling item number 4, Stage Karaoke LLC, located at 138 Brighton Ave in Alston, date of the incident June 18th, 2023. Assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, a bottle, patron on patron, in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 138, Section 15A, and a fray abutting in front of the premise, patron on patron, in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who's present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning again, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board. Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee. With us this morning are Henry Wong, who's the owner and manager of record, Patrick Sweeney, assistant manager on duty on the night in question, Andre Lozano of the security staff. Do we have someone else, Henry?
Yes, Alex Venturat is the director of operations.
Okay, thank you. Good morning again, Madam Chair and members.
Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Scott Stenstrom, Boston Police Officer.
Sergeant Jeff McGann.
Thank you very much. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? You all please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Who will be reading the police report into the record?
I can, Scott Stenstrom.
Great, thank you very much. If you could please proceed.
About 1 a.m. on Sunday, June 18th, 2023, Officer Stenstrom in the Kilo 424 Alpha unit, Officer Masiosi in the Kilo 498 unit, and Officer Thomas in the Kilo 422 Alpha unit responded to an assault and battery in progress at Stage Studios X, located at 138 Brighton Avenue in Alston, Mass. Also responding to the scene was a Kilo 104 Alpha, POs Joseph and Andre, Kilo 202 Curtin Steppe, Kilo K1, POs Michael, Michelle and McKinney's, and Kilo 906 Sergeant McGann. The Channel 5 dispatcher advised the officers that patrons of the above address were assaulting the staff with bottles. Upon arrival, the officers observed the staff and patrons outside the above address. The officers are notified that the victim that was struck with the glass bottle was upstairs inside the premise. The officers spoke with the victim, Leonard Battle, who stated he was struck in the back of the head with a glass bottle. The officers did not observe any blood on the injury on the victim. Boston EMS was requested to respond to evaluate the victim. Boston EMS ambulance 14 responded to treat the victim. The victim was evaluated on scene and not transported. Officer Joseph in the Kilo 104 Alpha unit spoke with Mr. Battle, who is an employee at the above address, and stated that he was struck with a glass bottle by a patron while a fight had broken out between the staff and patrons of the premise. Mr. Battle stated the person who struck him had a collared shirt. After being treated by EMS, Mr. Battle came outside where he saw the person who struck him with the bottle and stated, "That's the guy who hit me," and pointed at the suspect, later identified as Danny Kuhn. Officer Thomas spoke with Andre Lozano, who works at the above address, and stated he saw the suspect strike his coworker with a glass bottle. Mr. Lozano stated that a fight had started inside on the second floor. Mr. Lozano stated that he was attempting to get the people fighting outside to the first floor, where when females involved in the fight dragged him outside and began striking him.
Mr. Lozano suffered cuts to his left pinky, ring, and middle fingers from the fight. Mr. Lozano stated that once outside, an unknown suspect described as a 5'6" chubby Asian male brandished a silver knife. Officer Stenson spoke with the suspect, who stated that he was inside the establishment with his friends. He stated that he was waiting for his girlfriend outside the bathroom. An employee asked him a question, and when he responded to the employee, made a remark. The suspect stated that the employee was Mr. Lozano. Mr. Lozano kept making comments to other employees, stating to watch out for this one. The suspect stated that he wasn't paying attention, but all of a sudden a fight broke out between his friends and staff members from the establishment. The suspect stated that he was attempting to break up the fight. The suspect stated that he was attempting to de-escalate the situation. He observed a staff member, Mr. Lozano, forcibly push his girlfriend's head against the door. The suspect stated that at that point he got involved and attempted to assist his girlfriend. The officer asked the suspect if he had struck anyone with a bottle, to which he said no. Officer Stenson placed the suspect under arrest for assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. The Kilo 104 Alpha transported the suspect District 14 for booking in the usual manner. Sergeant McGann issued the stage karaoke manager, Patrick Sweeney, license premises inspection notice citation number 059178. That's it.
Thank you. We have a supplemental as well. Will that be read into the record?
Yes, about 1:30 a.m. on Sunday, June 18th, Sergeant McGann responded to a radio call for an assault and battery in progress, which resulted in a licensed premise inspection. BPD code 35 at Stage Karaoke at 138 Brighton Ave in Alston. Upon arrival, Sergeant McGann observed a chaotic scene with a crowd of people engaged in verbal and physical confrontation directly in front of the karaoke bar. Sergeant McGann spoke with the manager, identified as Max Ochoa, and advised him that his karaoke bar would be written a licensed premise inspection notice based on the nature of the events, which occurred both inside and in front of the karaoke bar. The 911 call was made by Patrick Sweeney, who identified himself as a manager of the karaoke bar. Sergeant McGann and Officer Masiosi entered the bar and conducted the Code 35 inspection. Sergeant McGann issued license premise inspection notice 59178 to Patrick Sweeney for the following violations: A and B dangerous weapon, bottle, patron on employee, affray, abutting in front of the premise, patron on patron. The inspection notice was signed by Sweeney and issued to him in hand. Management cooperated fully with the investigation and the Code 35. Sergeant McGann also inspected the establishment's Boston City licenses, noting no further violations.
Thank you very much. Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yeah, if I may just, yes, please. If I may just, as a matter of the charge here, the police report indicates the ABDW was patron on employee, and the actual hearing notice and the inspection notice indicate patron on patron. It in fact was patron on employee, was it not, Sergeant?
Yes, the initial call was for the patron on patron fighting in front, which we all observed when we first showed up on scene, and then we later found out that there was other incidents that involved inside. If that's not listed on the notice, then that's an inadvertent error on my part.
No, I understand. But indeed, the incident was the employee is the one who got struck with the bottle, not another patron.
Oh, correct, yes, with the bottle, yes.
Just to make sure who got hit and by what. It was the employee in this case who got struck.
Yes.
And did they, Sergeant, tell you that the outside occurrences were due to them trying to clear the establishment and begin to close down for the night because of the employee and others having been struck?
Yes, when we arrived, they were closing, and then when we entered the establishment, they were cleaning up for the night.
Okay, and as your report indicated, and as the inspection notice indicated, it was Mr. Sweeney, who was the manager, who called the police, and the establishment and their workers cooperated with you fully. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I have no further questions of the officer. I would like to ask Mr. Wong a few questions, if I may, Madam Chair. Mr. Wong, you're the owner of the establishment and the manager of record. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And on the night in question, did your staff conduct themselves appropriately, in your opinion?
Yes. Yes, they have.
And what took place with regard to your employee? Which gentleman was it? I'm sorry, that got struck.
He is actually not here today.
Okay, I'm sorry. And the other two individuals were present on the night in question?
Yes,
Okay, and are they the ones who cooperated with the police, made the call to the police, et cetera?
that is correct.
Okay, and with regard to the occurrences outside of the establishment, can you describe what was going on when the officers arrived?
Maybe Patrick, you can elaborate on this?
Mr. Sweeney, can you do that, sir?
Yes, so we tend to close the establishment at 2 a.m. This incident occurred a little before 1:30, so that rushed us to close a little earlier. So whatever chaos was described out front the establishment was some guests that were attempting to leave, others were attempting to enter. So we were having the other people from the incident rushed out of the establishment. So it seems that there may have been some a lot of confusion between a lot of the guests and others out front.
And are you the person who called the police?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And did you stand by and cooperate? Did you point out the individual who struck the employee with the bottle?
Yeah, so I called them in, and then I was helping, get some of the guests out. And then Mr. Lozano, the security on hand at the time, he was attempting to get some of the guests out of the establishment as well as quickly as possible. And then they were outside once the police arrived.
Okay. And this individual was placed under arrest, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney, Mr. Wong, and others. The chair and the members may have some questions for you.
Thank you, Chairwoman Joyce. Any questions?
Can you address the statement in the police report that the suspect stated he was attempting to de-escalate the situation, observed a staff member, Mr. Lozano, forcefully pushing his girlfriend's head against a door?
Is it Mr. Lozano with us?
Yes, right.
Can you suggest what happened with regard to the individual and the women's bathroom?
So in that matter, when we were clearing the establishment, the individuals were still standing in the doorway, and I was with my hand just asking them to leave. Well, and he struck me again while trying to defend said situation. I never physically touched anybody, just trying to clear the area because they were not trying to leave the premises.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions. Commissioner Curran and Commissioner Saxon?
Is there any video of this?
Yes, and video was given to the detectives afterwards. It was 2 days later. Detective, I think Lamontas and Giraldo were given the video.
All right, so he denied hitting anyone with a bottle. Did the video show the bottle was used?
Yes, that's the individual that denied hitting the bottle. He's the one that struck our employee.
Okay. And from your perspective, how did this all get going? How did it all start?
It started when I questioned the gentleman, Mr. Cook, about him being near the ladies' restroom. And he made a remark saying, don't worry about it. I'm fine. And that kind of startled me a little. It made me ask my staff to keep an eye on him just in case any suspicious activity occurred furthermore. And I guess he was intimidated by that or threatened by me questioning him about him being in the area. And he decided to make a fray. He's the one that struck the employee. After that, and then when the situation occurred, we got him outside and he continued to make statements that were false.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Thank you. No, I don't have any questions. I'll just wait for the video.
Lieutenant Troy, this is an ongoing investigation, correct?
It is an ongoing investigation, Commissioner, and I'm just looking here, and there's 5 separate videos attached here. I'll see if I can access them and provide them to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further from the board?
No questions.
Thank you. Attorney Quilty, I may have missed this. Is there video that will be provided to the board from you or no?
Henry, I know it was provided to the detectives. I think Lieutenant Troy just suggested he's looking at it now, but Henry, do we have has it been retained so that we can send it to the board?
Yes, yes, I will send another copy.
Okay, we'll do that today.
Thank you. I'll make sure that that is shared with the board. If there are no further questions, the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Calling item number 5, J Bond LLC, located at 25 Kingston Street, dated the incident May 7th, 2023. Assault and battery by means of a dangerous weapon in front of premise in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 15A. Failure to cooperate with police in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.10A and B. Failure to notify Boston Licensing Board of Armed Security in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Mark Evliades, attorney for the licensee. I have co-counsel attorney Elizabeth Keeley with me. In addition, I have Shirok Reza, who is the manager of record of the establishment, John Saman, who is the owner and manager, James Bien Ami, who is the director of security from the private security company Mass Protective Services LLC that we hire for certain events, and Cled Sully, who is an assistant manager.
Great, thank you very much. And all those who are intending to testify, please just make sure that you are on video so that we can swear you in. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher will be reading the LPV violation in.
Detective Kenneth Curley.
Thank you, Detective Curley. Is it possible to turn your camera on as well so that we can swear you in?
Yeah, I can see that it's on, but I can't see the video, so I'm having a little issue with it.
Yeah, that's right. I can't even ask you to turn your camera on because it looks like it is on. Hang on, I just asked you to start video again. Let's see if you can, something just popped up for you. No, it doesn't look like that's going to work. Detective Curley, can you please affirm to the board that you will raise your right hand to when asked to do so?
I will.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Thank you. And Detective Curley, if you could please just affirm to the board that you're raising your right hand.
I am.
Thank you. Do you all swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Detective Curley, will you be reading the initial police report into the record?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you very much. Whenever you are ready.
Okay, so this is I number 232-035-550. About 9:39 p.m. on Sunday, May 7th, 2023, officers Entwistle and Marchand assigned to the Alpha K01 Frank unit responded to a radio call for shots fired at 30 Kingston Street, Boston. Channel 2 dispatch notified responding officers that the 911 caller heard one shot fired and saw people running from 30 Kingston Street. The caller stated he observed a large crowd from his third-floor apartment located at 35 Kingston Street, Boston. Dispatch stated suspect number 1, 5'10", white male with a white shirt and possible blue jeans. Suspect number 2, shirtless black male. On arrival, officers observed a large unruly crowd outside of 25 Kingston Street, Fete nightclub. As officers exited their cruiser, their attention was drawn to an irate black male with his shirt off in a physical altercation with another male with a yellow sweatshirt with fake blood stains covering the front and back. Officers attempted to separate all parties, but were immediately met with resistance. The large irate crowd began to form around officers, grabbing, pushing, and shoving them while attempting to intervene and de-escalate the situation. A1 units physically pushed the bystanders away for officer safety. The unruly crowd continued down the entire street of Kingston from Summer to Bedford Street. Officers Entwistle and Marchand briefly detained a shirtless male matching the description, later identified as Deshad Perry. Officers conducted a pat frisk yielding negative results. At this time, the crowd, Sergeant Hernandez arrived on scene and activated surrounding emergency deployment teams. Channel 2 dispatch notified officers of a confirmed walk-in shooting victim at Boston Medical Center. Officer Entwistle attempted to speak with staff from FET nightclub. There was roughly 5 to 10 staff members and bouncers outside the club who refused to comply or give full statements of the incident. When asked about the incident, multiple bouncers stated that there was not a shot fired, but a fight directly outside the front door. When asked for identification for report writing purposes, FET staff refused to provide biographical information and began filming officers and requesting badge numbers. Officers reiterated FET is a licensed premise, but continue to be uncooperative. One bouncer stated that he was outside for over 2 hours and did not hear a shot fired. While clearing the unruly crowd from Kingston Street, officers did arrest Hassan Ingram for disorderly and assault battery police officer. Ingram refused to clear from the crime scene, and a firearm was recovered from his right hip. Ingram produced an active LTC and was transported back to A1 by the 202 Frank. Detective Curley and Detective Walsh took custody of their firearm. Ingram claimed to be security for the establishment. The firearm recovered was a 9mm Ruger 9E with 10 hollow point rounds in the magazine and 1 in the chamber for a total of 11 rounds. Safari Land paddle holster was also seized. Officers eventually were able to clear the majority of the crowd away from Kingston Street. Sergeant Hernandez ordered all officers to conduct a line search of ballistics and evidence on Summer and Bedford Street. Line search yielded negative results. Officers located original caller who resides at 35 Kingston Street, who stated he went out for a walk earlier in the night around the downtown crossing area. He arrived back to Kingston Street and he walked by FET nightclub and was harassed by people waiting in line. He stated he ignored vulgar terms stated towards him as he entered his apartment, and then stated that he heard what he believed to be 1 gunshot directly outside of his apartment. His apartment is located on the 3rd floor, and he observed a group of 30 people running away from the nightclub. He was unable to identify the shooter or get a description. He was adamant the shot was on Kingston Street and stated that his ring camera that he has a ring camera located out front and security cameras. Officer Delisle responded to Boston Medical Center to speak with the victim, Jean-Bertrand Janice, who stated he was suffering from a gunshot wound to the left leg. Delisle notified a patrol supervisor of the non-life-threatening injuries. Janice stated that he was in line at FET when a fight erupted directly outside. He stated people began pushing and shoving. Then he heard 1 round go off in the crowd. Janice stated he began to run away from the crowd and felt a burning sensation in his left leg. At this point, Janice realized he had been shot and yelled for someone to call the police. A bystander, later identified as Aaron Williams, who was walking by, observed Janice suffering from a gunshot wound and offered to drive him to the hospital. His vehicle was parked on 30 Kingston Street and he was transported to Boston Medical Center by Williams. License premise violation to be issued on a later date and time. That's the end of the report.
Thank you very much. We have, in addition to the code 35, we have 2 other supplementals as well. Are those going to be read in as well?
This is supplemental 1. Let's see. These are just victim statements. One of the victims, Ms. Medea, stated that she was shot. She didn't want to seek medical treatment, nor did she want to speak with first responders. She stated she was scared to go to the hospital, but instead went home. 2 days later, she stated she did not want her wound to get infected, and she decided to go to the hospital. So she went to the hospital May 9th. And I don't believe I have a copy of the other supplemental this time.
I have a copy of that, need be. Sergeant Detective Gallagher here, will be reading from report written by PO Matt Entwistle about 9:39 p.m. on Sunday, May 7th, 2023. Officers Entwistle Mashan assigned to the Alpha KO1 did make an on-site arrest for Sam Ingram while responding to a call for shots fired at 30 Kingston Street, Boston. For an incident involving the shots fired, see BPD 232-03-5550. The purpose of background of officers while on scene were notified of a walk-in shooting victim at Boston Medical Center from 30 Kingston Street. While on scene, officers were met by unruly crowd. Officers continually attempted to de-escalate the situation, but were surrounded by irate people attempting to intervene in the investigation. Officers were outnumbered and had to physically remove people away for officer safety. Citywide emergency deployment teams were activated by the patrol supervisor. Officer Entwistle Mashan were wearing plain clothes with ballistic vests with large panels on the front and back labeled Boston Police. Officer's badge were displayed on the outermost garment. Shooting occurred directly outside FET, located at 25 Kingston Street. Witnesses and bystanders were uncooperative and filmed while attempting to gain control of the irate crowd and secure a crime scene. Officer Entwistle spoke with Sergeant Hernandez, who ordered everyone to clear Kingston Street and established it as a crime scene. Officers were directed to remove everyone up to Summer Street and Bedford Street to conduct a line search for ballistics evidence. With the small crowd directly in front of FET, officers ordered everyone to clear the crime scene. Assam Ingram, 6'3", 270-pound black male, wearing a t-shirt, dark pants, was ordered to clear the area. Told multiple times that the street was a crime scene and he must leave the area. Ingram ignored officers' orders and began filming and taunting officers. Officer Enwell placed his right arm on Ingram's left shoulder in an attempt to clear him from the area. Ingram stated, "Don't put your hands on me." Ingram, still ignoring officers' orders, lifted his right arm while filming, exposing his right hip. At this time, Officer Mashan observed what he knew to be a black firearm in plain view on Ingram's hip. Due to the severity of the shots fired in the walk-in victim, officers attempted to briefly detain Ingram to investigate the firearm. Officer Entwistle was able to gain control of Ingram's left wrist, and Officer Mashan gained control of his right wrist. Officers attempted to place handcuffs on Ingram, but were met with resistance, and a small, unruly crowd surrounded them as they attempted to detain his firearm. Ingram, after a brief struggle, officers were able to safely remove the firearm, place him in cuffs. Ingram, while yelling vulgar statements at officers and threatening them, was face-to-face with Officer Entwistle, and a large amount of saliva came out of his mouth and made contact with Entwistle's face. Ingram continued to be uncooperative, and an even larger crowd formed around officers. Multiple A1 units and state police cleared the crowd while attempting to walk Ingram to the cruiser while they confirmed his LTC. Officers walked Ingram to the patrol wagon. Multiple bystanders ran up behind officers and had to physically be moved back for officer safety. Ingram was placed in the rear of A1 patrol wagon and transported to district station for booking. Later determined that Ingram was allegedly an armed security guard for Fats nightclub. Due to Ingram's disorderly, irate behavior while armed and resistance while placed in handcuffs, he will be charged with the following: disorderly conduct and resistant arrest. The firearm was seized with the rounds mentioned in the earlier report. Detective Walsh and Curley took custody of the firearm on scene. The following items were seized and logged into Boston Police evidence. That is Officer Entwistle's report. The last one is my report, and it is the LPV, and read it as follows. On 5/12/2023 at about 10:23 p.m., Sergeant Detective John Shaughnessy, the Victor 980, Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, the Victor 923, and Detective Eddie Hernandez, the Victor 815, assigned licensed premise unit, conducted a licensed premise inspection of FET at 25 Kingston Street. This inspection came about because of an incident that took place on 5/7/2023 at 9:39 p.m. Incident was recorded on 2 BPD incident reports, the last four 5550 and 5573. Incident in question started with a shots fired call that was reported by an abutter. Multiple Boston Police Department and state police units responded to the shots fired call and the disturbance that occurred afterward. In BPD report number 232035550 and a supplemental also written by P.O. Entwistle, 2 victims were located at Boston Hospital with bullet wounds. Both witnesses recall a fight out in front of FET and then hearing a single shot. In Boston Police Report number 232035573, written by P.O. Entwistle, a male later identified as Sam Ingram, who self-identified as a security guard from FET nightclub, was placed under arrest and charged with disorderly and resisting. Responding officers requested Mr. Hassan to clear the area, crime scene numerous times. Mr. Hassan ignored all the officers' instructions. Instead, Mr. Hassan began taunting and filming them. Officers moved to physically guide Mr. Hassan from the crime scene. During this altercation, a firearm was observed on Mr. Hassan's hip. Officers moved to secure the firearm. Struggle ensued, where Mr. Hassan resisted until he was finally placed in handcuffs. Not knowing whether Mr. Hassan was involved in the shooting, officers took control of the firearm so they could determine the veracity of his claims and whether he was licensed. Crime scene was finally cleared and processed by BPD detectives after citywide EDTs and state police arrived to deal with the crowd. On detectives' inspection of the 12th, they spoke with the manager, Ernst and Mercier, about the incidents outlined in both BPD reports. In addition, there were members of security staff present there who stated the incident happened when a male was denied entry. Detectives stressed the importance of calling 911 and working together as a team with responding officers to quell disturbance, aid victims, and locate any suspects. In addition, the licensee must notify the licensing board of armed security. As a result of what occurred on 5/7, Sergeant Gallagher issued license premise inspection of 040365 to FET for assault and battery by means of a dangerous weapon, firearm ×2, failure to cooperate with police, and failure to notify Boston Licensing Board of armed security on the premise. Mr. Mercier signed for and accepted the notice, and I believe that.
Thank you very much. With that, I'll turn it to Attorney Evliades. Attorney Keeley, how would you like to address the incident?
Good morning, members of the board, Madam Chairman, Executive Secretary Mark Evliades. First, I'd like to give a little bit of background information, if I may, on this particular evening. The evening was on the weekend of Cinco de Mayo. On this day, the establishment had opened at 11 o'clock in the morning to serve brunch, as it normally does on Saturdays and Sundays until 4 p.m. This was, on this evening, there was a private event, a private party with a guest list for guest patrons only. The capacity was limited to 140 persons because it was a private party, which is much less than our actual capacity in the premises. The party was scheduled from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. No business was to be conducted after 10 p.m. This was Cinco de Mayo weekend. As I stated, people had been congregating on Kingston Street as they exited other establishments. We had shut the doors of the establishment at approximately 8:30 because we had reached the 140 persons. If I may just address a couple of the discussion points regarding the charges currently against or cited in the notice. I'll start with failure to notify the licensing board of armed security. The licensee does not have armed security. We have a zero tolerance policy for any weapons on the premises, so staff, management, and patrons. The licensee has hired a private unarmed security company. That unarmed security company is Mass Protective Services, LLC. They provide security for certain events unarmed. The night in question, Mr. Hassan Ingram was not working and has not ever worked for the licensee, but he did work for the security company and apparently had showed up to quote unquote pick up his check. We were informed by Mass Protective Services President James Bien Ami that Mr. Ingram had worked in the past for the company, but was not working that night. And immediately following this occasion, Mass Protective Services terminated his employment because of his unruly and just his conduct on that particular evening. The assault and battery, deadly weapon shot fired on the premises, the first charge, was outside of the establishment and from an unknown person that was not a patron of the licensee, and from an unknown location that was not immediately in the control of the licensee in the front. As I said, there was a group of people had formed outside the licensee and other licensees' premises because it was Cinco de Mayo. The failure to cooperate with police officers is something that has the management and the ownership of the licensee greatly concerned. And the private security company has been put on notice that they're on probation. And that our number one rule is that if any incident happens, 911 will be called for any issue that comes up. And that they are supposed to cooperate fully with the police department, the fire department, and EMTs at all time. The manager of record, Shirok Reza, that evening had a conversation with the Boston Police Department, found out what was happening with the security company, and immediately brought everybody in to admonish them. He also conducted thereafter an internal investigation with Mr. John Saman, who is the owner of the establishment. In regards to this, there were certain post-incident remedial actions by the licensee, which I have emailed to Attorney Green, the executive secretary, as of yesterday. They replaced and fixed certain security cameras outside of the premises and inside the premises to make sure that there'd be video of any incident that may happen in the future. Security and safety operations procedure was updated, revised, and circulated and executed by all employees of the company. A post-incident report form was also created to make sure that we collect data and information and identities from anybody who's involved in any type of incident. Private security company itself was put on, as I said, probation, and Mr. Ingram was terminated based on our conversations with the security company. With that said, I'd just like to turn it over to my co-counsel, Elizabeth Keeley, to ask if she has anything to add, and then I'll ask the witnesses to confirm what I've stated as far as a beginning statement.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I participated in a very lengthy meeting with the staff of FET and the security employees in September, and reiterated and reinforced the rules and regulations that have been given to them at the outset of this restaurant operation. And we have followed through with all the items that the Attorney Evilades has spoken of, and I have nothing more to add.
If I may, I'd like to call Shirok Reza, who is the manager of record, and just get some follow-up with him. Shirok, can you state your full name for the record?
Good morning, Shirok Reza.
And you are the manager of record at J Bond LLC, doing business at FET Restaurant?
Yes, I am.
And on this particular day in question, is it correct that there was a private party at the establishment?
Yes, there is. There was a private party at the establishment.
And the private party was limited to 140 patrons, correct?
Correct.
And the time that the doors were approximately closed to entry was approximately 8:30?
8:30 p.m., correct.
And the event was supposed to only go from 4 to 10, correct?
Yes.
And there was nothing else planned. You were closing the business at that point in time thereafter.
Correct.
And this was on Cinco de Mayo weekend, correct?
Correct.
And at some point in time in the evening, you were alerted to the fact that there was an incident outside of FET Restaurant.
Yes, I had actually just left there a few minutes earlier. And then within 15, 20 minutes, I got a text message that there was an incident there. And I happened to be still in the area, so I came right back to the location.
And when you came back, did you have a chance to talk to any of the Boston Police Department?
Yes, the whole street was shut down, so it took a while, a few minutes for them to allow me go through the crime zone. after identifying myself as a manager of record. And when I got there, one of the sergeants pulled me aside and said, "Are you the manager?" And I said, "Yes." And said, "I just want to tell you that your staff was not cooperative with us, and they weren't helpful at all." And to be honest with you, I've been in this business for 30 years, and I've never been in that position before. So I immediately apologized to the sergeant. I told him that I find it unbelievable that that was the treatment they had gotten, and I promised them that it would be the first thing that would be addressed is when a police comes for an inspection, all bets are off. You put everything aside and you take care of the officer and accommodate him in every shape, form that you can. At that very moment, I called the group of the managers and the employees that were there, not the employees, but the security guards that were there, including the gentleman that owns the private security company. And the reason we use the private security company is because of the pandemic. We've had a hard time finding staff, and we decided the safest way was to hire professionals and hire the company to do it. So immediately after that conversation with the sergeant, I pulled the guys right at the front door, and I guess you could say I went off at them that they have, never ever again to be uncooperative in a situation like this, and told them that it's not acceptable, and the whole the whole story of how they should be treating the police officers or any inspectional people that are coming in from the city. They should be cooperative with them 100%.
So just to interrupt you, so regarding this private security company, you hired them, and they are, to the best of your knowledge, an unarmed security company. You didn't hire an
100%, yes. There was nothing. We never ever asked for armed security. I know, being in the business long enough, I've been told by police captains that even if police officers show up with a weapon, not to allow them into the premises. So I would never hire armed security in this situation.
To the best of your knowledge, Mr. Ingram never worked for Fett Restaurant, correct?
Never. Never.
Was deployed by the security company there. What is your policy as far as if an incident happens with 911 and calling the Boston Police Department?
Well, I just want to bring up a couple of facts. I happen to be the manager of the record. I helped the reverend that runs the thing as because of my experience, I offered to help. I have no financial interest in there, and I wanted the business that's in there happens to be friends of mine that are it's sort of like a female and minority owned group that is trying to open a restaurant, and that's why I agreed to be on the license to help them operate this. And basically, I've tried to help in every way, shape, or form, and this incident happened, and it's unfortunate. We've gone through retraining. I have talked to everybody that's in charge over there to make sure that this is the way they're supposed to be handled, and I don't anticipate this will ever happen again. I personally contacted Sergeant Gallagher and Sergeant Hernandez to apologize to them and ask them to apologize to the rest of the department for the situation that they dealt with, and I hope that it will never happen again.
Okay, so with that, let's just to move this forward. As far as after your internal investigation, as far as post-incident remedial actions by the licensee, is it true and correct that the security cameras were fixed and installed outside to make sure that we have better security coverage within the premises and outside the premises?
Correct. We actually, way before this, we contributed. That's when I was involved with the space, because my wife owned a percentage of that business. I was involved with the organization called BIDS, and we raised about over $40,000 to install cameras in the neighborhood and around the area. So those cameras that were put up, we were, we volunteered to raise money for that.
I understand that, Shirok, but I'm speaking about it inside and outside the actual premises.
Yes.
Okay.
After the pandemic, the place was closed for a while, so a lot of the stuff didn't end up working. So when these folks reopened the place, that was one of the first things that they did, was to make sure we get all the cameras up and running.
Okay, was the security and safety operations procedure manual updated, and were all the employees required to execute that?
Yes, and it was given to our private company as well, so they know what the rules are and what the situations are they'll be facing with.
And the post-incident report form that allows employees and managers to take down information was developed by us, correct? And now circulated and is part of any incident that happens in the future, correct?
Correct.
Unless Ms. Keeley, Attorney Keeley, has any questions for Shirok, I'd like to call the next witness.
No questions, thank you.
Unless, sorry, does the board have any questions for Mr. Reza?
I do.
Uh,
Yes, I do. So you were brought on to oversee the staff at the restaurant, and you're describing this as the separate security staff?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, for my purposes, you're responsible for the security staff too.
Absolutely. No,
Okay. You can't distance yourself from people that you've hired. They need to be aware of your rules and regulations at the establishment. I also want to make a comment that you are allowed to have armed security if you notify the board. You made a comment that you don't allow police officers in with guns.
I was asked by a captain. I was asked by a captain of A1 if a police officer shows up off duty and one of the.
Yeah, that's different. Off duty.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
No one who's there in their own time should have a gun.
Yes, that's what I meant. I'm sorry not to be clarified.
Okay, so why was the security officer who was carrying a gun, who you said was not on duty, showing up at after 9 o'clock at night to pick up his check at FET?
Madam Chairwoman, I don't know this gentleman. I've never met him. To this date, I don't, if I see him, I don't know who it would be.
That's fine. I'm asking you about your policies. Is it your policy to have the security company that you stated is separate from your staff to come to the licensed premise at 9 o'clock at night to pick up their paycheck?
No.
Okay.
No, we write a check to the company separately. That gentleman has never worked for us. I believe he was there to meet the owner of the security company to pick up his check from other events that they were not their only account. They have other locations that they carry. So he was there to pick up his check from other events that.
Do you pat down everyone who comes in?
Yes.
The security company pat down, okay.
Madam Chairwoman, not only do they pat down, they've got metal detecting wands. They have a female security officer there to make sure that if women come in with purses, their purses can be viewed or looked at and pat down by a female. So, yes.
Okay, so this incident was Cinco de Mayo, you stated several times.
On the weekend of.
Weekend of. So I'm assuming you or management was aware that this had happened. But then you stated that you didn't have your security meeting with Ms. Keeley until September. What was the thinking between May, June, July, August, September? You decided to have your big security meeting?
We had a security meeting that night, Madam Chairwoman. I made it clear to them that night some of the items that needed to be cleared. And right after that, we had a meeting like within immediately the following week. We had a meeting with the owner of the security company that was providing security for us about the rules and regulations and how we like to see things handled. So it's been an ongoing thing since that incident. And I believe Ms. Keeley was mentioning one of the meetings, but we've had multiple meetings.
Okay, that's helpful. And one more time, what is the name of the security company?
It's Mass Protective Services LLC. And the next witness I would call would be the Director of Security and President of that company that we hired.
Okay, before you call him, I'm gonna give my other commissioners an opportunity to ask questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions at this time?
I'm just not clear of when you were there that night. What time did you arrive?
I arrived about 20 minutes after this incident had occurred.
But you had been there prior to the incident.
I had been there prior to this incident. I stopped by and you know,
20 minutes after it was cleared, because it seemed like it went on for a while with the crowd and everything. Or 20 minutes after it was reported to have been a gunshot.
when I got there, the street was shut down. I wasn't able to go through the streets because all the crime tapes was on. I had to call our manager to let the sergeant know that I was at the beginning of the street and if there was a way for me to come through.
So
and about
there
20
was no
minutes.
crowd interacting with the police or anything like that. You didn't see any of that.
No, all there was our staff and the police officers.
Okay, I just wasn't clear on that. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Sure.
Is the manager in the hearing right now? The manager that was on duty?
That night?
Yeah, the manager that night, is he here in this hearing right now?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay, Ernie. So did you, were you personally cooperative with the police or did you witness? You were.
I didn't have no interaction with the police till everything was all said and done. When everything was going on outside, I was actually inside.
Okay, and another question, the security team that was hired, did they wear uniforms?
They wear black with security logos on them.
Okay, and just to confirm, the person that came here to pick up the check, was he wearing a similar uniform to like all black with the?
That person never stepped inside. I never stepped outside. So I don't even know who this guy is. I don't know how he looks. I've never met him before.
I want to reiterate of how this gentleman has, I know most of this report is about the gentleman having the gun and mouthing off the police officers and the sergeant. We honestly don't even know who this guy is. I've never met this guy in my life, and how much trouble he's caused by the way he was acting over there that night is unbelievable. How he took upon himself to identify himself as our security or have anything to do with the place, because we have no clue who this guy is.
Would you say you know all of the people that this company puts on as security at your place, or?
I wouldn't say I know all of them, but most of them just, within the last couple of months, they've tried to give us regular guys that.
But at any given time, they could give you someone that you wouldn't know, right? That's not in violation of the agreement, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
so you wouldn't necessarily know everyone that the company put on at any given night.
I wouldn't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from the board for Mr. Reza before Attorney Evliadis moves on to his next witness? Okay, Attorney, you may proceed.
James, are you there? James?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Could you state your name, for the record, please?
Name's James Bienemy, President of Mass Protective Services.
And you are the Director of Operations or President?
Both.
And can you tell us something about your work background?
We're basically former police of SUPD, and now I'm with Tufts Police.
And how long have you had this security company?
A year.
And you provide security for Fett Restaurant, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you don't provide armed security, correct?
No, sir.
Okay, and this gentleman, Mr. Ingram, had worked for you at some point, correct?
Yeah.
He had never worked for Fett Restaurant?
Never.
Okay, and what was your actions there after this particular incident regarding?
With the same night.
the same night he got terminated, so.
Okay, and what kind of uniforms do your staff members wear?
Right now we were like black shirt with security logo on the back.
Okay, and what kind of training do your security personnel get?
We do like self-defense training, and we do MOHAB training.
And on the night in question, were you working?
Yeah, I was working. I was in front of the door.
Okay, and I had made the statement that there were some patrons gathering outside because it was Cinco de Mayo weekend, but we had shut the door down at
8:30.
No, but 140 patrons in at 8:30, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and did you tell the people that were congregating outside that no other people were being allowed in?
Yeah, I did tell them that.
You understand that we have a zero tolerance policy for any type of firearms by our employees or allowed within the establishment, correct?
Correct, sir.
And what kind of security measures do you make sure that that happens?
So basically, we do pat downs. We use metal detectors for like guys and females, pat down females.
And how many people do you usually have at the establishment when we call for an event?
We usually have six on.
I have no
Basically six. I make 7 myself. So.
Attorney Keeley, any further questions for the security officer? Attorney Keeley.
She appears to be frozen.
I have no further questions for this particular witness unless the board does.
Chairman Joyce, any questions for Mr. Bianame, or would you like to continue?
I have no questions. Thanks.
With that, I would like to conclude that the licensee and the management of the company has taken this incident very, very seriously. As Mr. Reza stated, there have been numerous meetings, not just between the management and the ownership, but the staff as well, and as well with the security company. A number of very strict regulations and policies and procedures have been put in place, all of which have been executed by all personnel and put into their personnel folders. We find this to be an unfortunate incident that happened outside. I have to reiterate that this was not a patron of the establishment, nor do we know where he came from or where the shot came from. We've directed our staff to call 911 for any incident and to cooperate in the fullest with the Boston Police Department. That's all I'd have to say for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see if there are any further questions from the board. Chairwoman Joyce.
I have no questions.
Commissioner Curran.
I just want to state, from my perspective, I think the weight of the evidence is that the shot came from directly in front of FET. Are you disputing that?
We don't know where the shot came from because it sounds like the fact that it was one shot and 2 people were hit. It may have, and I'm assuming this, ricocheted off the ground from a distance and fragmented. So
the way I'm reading the report is that the male victim states that the shot came from a person in line that had been denied entry.
We did not find anybody. My statement is it wasn't a patron from our establishment, and
it was someone who was denied being a patron, essentially. That's what the weight of the evidence is. If you have a witness here that says that no one, I'd like to hear from them. That's really what I'm saying. You know, you really haven't put on a witness to say that the shot didn't come from directly in line.
We don't know where the shot came from.
Yeah, but you have employees right there, right? So presumably you have someone who could have stated, no, the shot didn't come from right there, and you haven't given us that.
So James, the security officer, didn't hear the shot. That was stated in one of the police reports. Ernest, who was the manager, was inside, didn't see or hear the shot. And Mr. Reza, who had left the premises for approximately 20 minutes, wasn't there to hear the shot. So I apologize, but we don't have anybody who actually witnessed or heard the shot happening, or we would have brought that person.
Who was at the door? Like denying entry?
James, that's me.
James, you were at the door and denying entry?
Yes, sir.
And so the attorney has stated that you have said you didn't hear a shot, and are you telling us you didn't hear a shot?
Yeah, nothing.
But clearly there was a shot, right?
I don't know nothing. I didn't hear nothing. So I was at the door the whole night. I didn't hear nothing.
Okay, I'll take that into account. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Sure.
Commissioner Saxon, any further questions?
Nothing further, thank you.
May I just see if Elizabeth Keely is present and if she has anything to add?
Yes, I'm sorry, my screen went froze. I do have a couple of questions for James. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, I'm here.
James, on the night in question, your employee at the time, Mr. Ingram, did you have any interaction with him when he was at the scene before all this took place?
No, actually not. I didn't have anything.
Did you speak to him about telling him that you shouldn't be there looking to pick up a paycheck?
Yeah, I did tell him that. Yeah, he came up to me and he was like, "Yeah, I'm here to pick up a paycheck." I'm like, "No, we don't operate that way." So that's what I told him, and I just turned around.
Okay. And you mentioned that you didn't hear the gunshot. Can you describe what the scene is like when you're immediately outside the Fete restaurant on a night when there's a private party?
Basically, I shut the door and I closed the door at 8:30, and my click was like at 1:40, and
Right.
and I refused. There was a couple people that was trying to come in, and I told them the door was closed, and that's when we had about 30 or 40 people outside, people yelling, screaming, and stuff like that. But at the same time, that's when the fight broke out. It was two random people, individual, it's not they were not patron though, but they started fighting outside. That's when I was trying to get in between to break the fight up. That's about it. I didn't hear no gunshot, no nothing.
Okay. And when the door opens to the restaurant, is there music going on inside?
No.
You don't have music?
You mean inside when the doors
Yes.
open? What?
When the restaurant door opens and shuts, do you hear the music inside the restaurant?
Oh yes.
Okay, and so that is another added noise that is going on as well as with the crowd
Yeah.
outside.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and this fight that you're describing, where was it in relationship to the front of Fete?
It was not in front of Fete, technically. It was more down to probably I guess it was not in front of the door, basically.
Okay, it wasn't in front of the door. And the line that may have existed, it goes from, as you're looking at the front of Fete, it goes from the left towards Bedford Street. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so it heads down Kingston Street in the direction of number 35, which is where the witness to the gunshot who called the police resides, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Following that testimony, are there any further questions from the board?
When this fight was going on and you were intervening, was there a moment when everyone stopped fighting and started running in all directions?
Basically, I couldn't stop the fight by myself, so I just got in between and pushed the dudes out, and everybody started going their ways.
So my question was there a moment when you're trying to break up the fight and all of a sudden everyone starts running in all directions?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
One last question for Executive Secretary. I just wanted to make sure that you did receive the email that I sent yesterday, correct?
We received it and it has been shared with all three commissioners and it has been placed in the file as well.
Thank you very much.
Anything further from the licensee?
Nothing further.
Anything further from the board? Board will take this matter under advisement. Item number 6 concerns the same licensee, J Bond LLC, located at 25 Kingston Street. Date of this incident, September 4th, 2023. Assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, knife, in front of the licensed premise with 2 victims in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 15A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Attorney Mark Avliades for the licensee. With me, I have Attorney Elizabeth Keeley. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, Commissioners, and Executive Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Avliades. And if you could identify your witnesses for this matter, unless they're all the same.
I have Sharok Reza, who is manager of record. I have John Saman, who is the owner manager of J Bond LLC. I have Alan Amundi, who was a security personnel there that evening. Allison, who is the CFO for the landlord of the building, and Cled Sully, who is an assistant manager for the restaurant.
Thank you very much. I do see all of those individuals. Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer Ramirez.
Detective Kenneth Curley.
Detective William Gallagher will be reading the LPV into record.
Thank you very much. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify? Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Who will be reading the police report into the record?
Officer Ramirez.
Thank you very much, Officer Ramirez. You may please proceed.
About 2:51 a.m. on Monday, September 4th, 2023, Ramirez in the Alpha 426 Alpha received a radio call to respond to Boston Medical Center for a walk-in victim, Abraham Jane Bonilla, date of birth November 21, 1995, suffering from 1 stab wound to the chest/abdomen area. The victim, Bonilla, stated that the stabbing occurred in the area of Kingston Street, downtown Boston. The majority of A1 units responded to Kingston Street to establish the crime scene. Upon arrival to BMC, Officer Ramirez observed several defects, stuttered, along with a stopped motor vehicle, 2012 Toyota Highlander, Mass Reg 7 Papa Romeo 632, operated by the witness Felipe D. Caballero Wright, date of birth September 6, 1992. Officer Ramirez spoke to the witness Caballero. He had walked outside of an unknown club located on Kingston from 1 or more stab wounds. Caballero stated that he had ran into Bonilla, who he identified as his cousin, at the club, but however stated that he had initially not arrived to the club with him. Caballero stated that he then transported Bonilla to BMC emergency room. Caballero stated that he had no further knowledge or information regarding the incident that resulted in Bonilla being victimized. The Toyota Highlander, Mass Reg 7 Papa Romeo 632, was taken into police custody pending further investigation and towed to Boston Police Department headquarters, followed by the Delta 421A pink. While at BMC, Officer Ramirez was informed that Bonilla's injury was life-threatening. Officer Ramirez then notified the Alpha 902 Davis, who then called full notifications. Officer Ramirez received custody of the paper brown bag containing Bonilla's belongings, which he then turned into the Victor 869 homicide detective McCarthy. It should be noted that a second victim, Marlon Roberts, date of birth October 16, 1993, arrived to BMC emergency room about the same time as Bonilla while suffering from 2 lacerations, one to the right arm and one to the left elbow. This is suspected to be related to the crime scene on Kingston Street as well. However, Roberts refused to disclose the location where the incident resulting in his injuries took place, referred to I number 232-071-201. That's it.
Thank you, Officer Ramirez. We have a number of supplementals as well. Will those be read into the record?
Sergeant Gallagher can read those if need be. First one is written by Officer Jerry 2 at about 10:46 a.m. on Monday, 9/4/2023. Officer 2 in the Alpha 432 received a radio call to respond to Boston Medical Center for walk-in victim Williams Ritchie, date of birth 6/21/99, suffering from 1 stab wound to the hip thigh area. Also responding to Boston Medical Center was Detective Juba, the Alpha 811, Detective Powers, the Alpha 812, and Detectives Dell, Alpha 814. The victim, Williams, had walked into Boston Police Headquarters to retrieve his cell phone, and the victim had disclosed to officers that he had a wound. Incident number 232071243, and the victim was transported to Boston by Boston EMS A94 to Boston Medical Center for further evaluation. BMC ER Dr. Close Alex stated the victim was in stable condition and had suffered a small sized wound to the left hip thigh area. Officers tried to speak to Williams, and the victim refused to disclose the location where the incident resulting in his injuries took place, other than saying that it occurred in a downtown area around yesterday night. Officers observed the victim with bandage up to the lower left hip eye area and where his injury was. Body worn cameras are non-activated due to HIPAA laws. The next report is written by a D4 officer, Officer Pankovich. About 3 a.m. on 9/4/2023, Officer Pankovich in Delta 421 and several other D4 units on-sited 2 stabbing victims that walked into Boston Medical Center. Officers were able to determine that one happened on District A1, incident number 232079193. Officers attempt to speak with the other victim, but he refused to say anything and gave hospital staff a fake name. The victim was suffering from 2 lacerations, one to the right arm, one to the left elbow, believed to be non-life-threatening. Hospital staff eventually found the victim's Mass driver's license. The victim was identified as Marlon Roberts, date of birth 10/16/1993. Mr. Roberts would not say where the incident occurred. Sergeant Stoddard was notified. That's it.
Thank you. I believe the final report would be the LPV.
Yes, let me just turn to that.
Thank you.
Okay, on 9/4/2023 at about 10 p.m., Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to Licensed Premise Unit, conducted a licensed premise inspection of FET at 25 Kingston Street, Boston. This inspection came about because of a stabbing that occurred on the early morning hours of September 4th. BPD officers were alerted to a walk-in stab victim at Boston Medical Center at 2:51 a.m. Boston Police Incident Report number 232071193 was written by PO Frankie Ramirez, who was the Alpha 426. PO Ramirez report stated the victim reported that he was stabbed in the area of Kingston Street. PO Ramirez also spoke to a witness who stated that he walked outside of an unknown club on Kingston Street and saw the victim lying on the ground, suffering from a stab wound to the chest. Witness stated he transported the victim to Boston Medical Center for help. Witness also reported seeing victim inside the club during the evening. Witness could not provide officers with any further information about the incident. Area A1 officers and detectives responded to Kingston Street, where they located a crime scene. The only operating nightclub on the street is FET, which is number 25. On the evening of 9/4/23, Sergeant Detective Gallagher and Detective Hernandez met with Sharok Reza, manager of record at FET. Detectives wanted to discuss the events that had occurred. Mr. Reza stated that he would do anything to assist in the investigation. Mr. Reza stated he would work with club staff to pull any video and provide to detectives. In addition, detectives also learned of a second walk-in victim at Boston Medical Center who was also stabbed 2 times. The victim stated the incident occurred downtown, which is BPD Area A1. Detectives and officers believe that victim number 2 was also involved in the Kingston Street stabbing. As a result of what detectives had been told, Sergeant Gallagher issued a license premise inspection notice number 040256 to FET for assault and battery, deadly weapon, knife, in front of licensed premise, 2 victims. Mr. Shrope Reza signed for and accepted the notice. That's it.
Thank you very much. Back to Attorney Evliades. Attorney Keeley, how would you like to address this incident?
Good morning, Sergeant Detective Gallagher. How are you?
Good, sir. Thank you.
The day that you came into FET Restaurant and you had a conversation with Mr. Reza and the staff there, were they cooperative?
Yes, sir, they were.
Okay, and to make this clear, this happened essentially from September 3rd, which is a Sunday night, into September 4th, Monday, correct? Because
Correct.
September 3rd would have been the evening turning into September 4th on Labor Day weekend, correct?
That's right, sir.
And you said that the staff, everybody was cooperative with you?
They were, sir.
And did the Boston Police Department establish where the stabbing did actually happen?
You'd have to talk to the detectives that were on scene. From my knowledge and talking to the staff, it was down to the right from the front door going towards Bedford Street. But you'd have to talk to the responding officers, sir, for better of that. I was not there that night.
Very good. Thank you very much.
What?
Elizabeth, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
So to summarize the issues at hand, again, this happened supposedly very early morning hours of September 4th, Monday on Labor Day weekend. On September 3rd, Sunday, the establishment was open for brunch, again from 11 to 4. The licensee was open for business and closes usually at 2 o'clock, but apparently on this evening it was closed somewhere a little bit earlier because there was not a lot of patrons at the establishment at that time. The staff, Alan and Cled, who were working that evening, was notified that there was an incident on Summer Street by the Bank of America ATM, which is 275 feet away from our establishment, by a police officer who had showed up sometime after closing that looked like he was looking for evidence up and down the street. When the Boston Police Department actually came to the establishment at approximately 3 a.m. in the morning, the staff was responsive and helpful to the best of their ability. Again, they didn't know anything that had happened because this had happened almost 100 yards away from the establishment and much later than the establishment was open. There was no patrons inside. There was just cleaning staff and a manager. With that said, I'd like to call Alan as a witness.
Yeah.
Hi, Alan. Can you say your name for the record?
My name is Alan Omondi.
And what is your position with FET Restaurant?
I'm the lead security at FET.
Okay. And were you working on the night in question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when was the first time that you were notified that an incident had happened outside of FET?
It had to be somewhere between 2:50 and 3 a.m.
And how were you notified of that?
What happened was I stay later because we do have waitressing staff and stuff like that. I usually stay to make sure that, they're safe and sound and then get to their vehicles. And at some point, I just looked out the window and I saw officers. I saw an officer with a flashlight. So I went outside and, just to ask, because it's somebody I was familiar with. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Why are you outside? And he told me there had been an incident on the street. And that's the first I heard of anything happening on Kingston Street.
What happened thereafter after the officer left?
They blocked off the street and they told me whoever was still left on the premises, they wanted to speak to them. And there was 4 of us still left inside. So I told them inside, and we just sat there and waited until officers convened and did their job.
Okay, what time did you end up leaving FET that evening?
7:30 a.m.
7:30 a.m. on Monday morning.
Yes, sir.
I have no further questions for this witness. Elizabeth?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify, Alan, you had explained earlier to us that you had given last call or in the restaurant was around 1:20, 1:30, and that most of the guests had left by 1:45. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I have I always turn the light on at 1:30. I turn the music off by 1:40. Usually by 1:50, 1:55 at latest. If we have a larger crowd, the premise is usually empty.
And so by the time everyone cleared out, it was sometime around 2 a.m. or shortly thereafter?
It was before 2 a.m. on that particular night because we didn't have a super large crowd. The place was empty before 2 a.m.
Okay. And you mentioned that you had interaction with Boston police who were outside the premises, and that was the first thing that drew your attention to outside FET?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you left around 7:30 in the morning with the other staff that were present, when you left, did you go out through the front door of FET?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see any evidence of a stabbing? Any signs of blood? Anything like
No,
that?
ma'am. No, ma'am.
And in either direction as you look outside the front door?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Attorney Avliades. Anything further?
I have other witnesses. I didn't know if the board had any questions for this witness.
Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions at this time, or would you like to move forward?
We can move forward. Thanks. I don't have any questions.
Next witness is Mr. Cled Sully, who was the assistant manager working that evening. Cled, are you there?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. You heard the testimony of Alan. Were you working that evening?
I was, yes.
Okay, so your name for the record?
My name is Cled Sully.
And would you say that the facts and evidence delivered by Alan were true and correct?
Right on the money. It was Alan and myself there that evening, so yes.
Okay, so you had no real notice of anything happening at the establishment or around the establishment until such time that a police officer was walking down the street looking for something with a flashlight?
Honestly, we didn't even know what he was doing. We really didn't learn until we tried to go to our cars and they said, you can't go to your car, you have to stay inside. And that's at that point we saw that they had like taped the street off, you know.
I have no further questions for, you cooperated with the police when they did come inside, correct?
1000%. They came in at about 5 a.m. to look at the licenses. I walked them around the restaurant, in the kitchen, bathrooms, back rooms, all over.
I have no further questions for this witness, unless the board has any questions, or Elizabeth.
No questions.
I'd like to call Allison. Allison?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Can you state your full name for the record?
Allison Kenua.
And what is your position at 25 Kingston Street?
I am the Director of Finance at Boston Rescue Mission, the owner of the building at 25 Kingston.
So they are the landlord, correct?
Correct.
And on the occasion of September 4th in the morning, which would be Labor Day Monday, were you coming to work that day?
I was not going to work on Labor Day. I actually came into work the next day on Tuesday morning at around 9 a.m.
And was something there that drew your attention?
Yeah, when I turned right onto Kingston Street from Summer Street where the ATM is, I noticed blood on the ground, or I wasn't quite sure what it was at the time, but it seemed like it was blood, and it was about the length of the ATM building on the corner.
Okay, and is that on Summer Street or Bedford Street?
It's on Kingston Street.
No, but I mean, what street is closest to it? Where is the ATM?
Summer.
Okay.
On the end of Summer Street. It was right at the corner of Summer and Kingston.
Street. And then did you proceed to 25 Kingston Street that day.
Correct. Yes,
And you didn't see any type of evidence that there was any kind of injuries or in front of the building?
no, it was all in front of the ATM.
I have no further questions for this witness. Thank you.
Sure.
John Saman, are you there? Mr. Saman?
Mr. Saman, it appears that you are connected to audio, but we cannot hear you. No, we cannot hear you, Mr. Saman.
Mr. Saman, if he were to testify, would testify that he actually measured from the front door to the Summer Street ATM, Bank of America ATM, which is 275 feet away. That is essentially his testimony. On top of that, he would testify to the fact that after this incident, there was an internal investigation with Mr. Reza involved. All parties that were working that evening all had the same thing to say, that they had no idea that this had happened. It wasn't a patron of ours, and nothing happened in or around the establishment. And it wasn't too far after that we were closed that we were notified by police that something happened up the street.
Thank you, Anthony. Mr. Saman, we still are unable to hear you.
I actually have a question. I want to jump in. How do you know this, they were not patrons? You may have answered it, but there's been so many different witnesses. I'm having a hard time focusing on the things that keep popping in my brain. How do you know with certainty that they were not patrons?
They were not, when I
They
say
were-
they're not patrons, they were, we don't know whether they may have been in earlier that evening.
Right.
Okay, but
So you don't know. They could have been patrons earlier in the
they
evening and
weren't-
gone down the
they weren't
street.
guests- Right, they weren't guests that immediately left our establishment.
That's
and
fine. I just want to let
Right.
you know that you can't say on the record that they weren't patrons that night.
I misspoke.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned a couple of times that you have brunch at 11 a.m.
Yes.
Do you know that you're not allowed to serve alcohol before noon on Sundays without permission from the board? Okay, so you'll have to follow up with us. You've said that several times today.
Attorney Evliades, do you have any further witnesses?
I do not. Elizabeth?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board, starting with Jerome and Joyce? Anything further?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Curran.
Yeah, I have no questions either. Thank you.
Commissioner Saxon.
No questions, thanks.
Thank you very much. That the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 7, Aya Pizza LLC, doing business as Red Line Pizza, located at 580 to 582 Dorchester Ave in South Boston. Date of the incident, July 23rd, 2023. Premise operating after posted 11 p.m. closing hour in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 9. Who is present on behalf of the licensee? Is anybody present on behalf of Red Line Pizza? Thank you. We will take a second call for this item and also item number 8. Calling item number 9, Hereford Investment Group LLC, doing business as Eva, located at 279A Newbury Street. Date of the incident, September 23rd, 2023. Persons under 21 in possession of alcohol in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 34A, 34C, and 6464A. And failure to ID prior to alcohol service in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, Chairman Joyce, Commissioners Saxon and Curran, Stephen Miller, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller. I have with me this morning George Abujadi, who's the manager of record, and also Christian Touche, who is the general manager and was on the premises the night of this incident.
Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I am Detective Hernandez.
Thank you very much. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Detective William Gallagher if need be.
Thank you very much. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Detective Hernandez, if you could please read the police report into the record for us.
Good morning. I'll be reading from a police report, which I wrote on Saturday, September 23rd, 2023. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez assigned to the BPD License Permit Unit conducted a license and premise inspection of Eagle Restaurant. As detectives were walking through the establishment, they observed a table of multiple young-looking patrons drinking alcoholic beverages. Detectives asked them to produce identification to confirm their ages. The patrons immediately stated they were under 21 years of age. All the patrons then provided either their passports, driver's license, or college identification to confirm their identities. All the patrons were confirmed to be under 21 years of age. The patrons further stated they would not ask for identification when ordering their drinks. The 5 patrons were identified as João Quintano, Pedro Joanaro, Renato Nahas, Benjamin Safari, and Guillermo Berenger. As detectives were speaking to staff, they observed another young-looking patron drinking an alcoholic beverage. Detectives asked her to produce identification to confirm her age. The patron immediately said that she was under 21 years of age. The patron then produced her valid Florida driver's license, which identified her as Victoria Osario. Ms. Osario stated she was also not asked for identification when ordering her drink. All 6 patrons will be summoned to the court for persons under 21 in possession of alcohol. Detectives brought this to the attention of the person in charge, Mr. Christian Touche. Mr. Touche stated he was unaware of the regulations and would speak to staff as to what was acceptable forms of identification for the purchase of alcohol. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 040271 for failure to property ID patrons and persons under 21 in possession of alcohol on premise. Mr. Touche signed for and accepted the notice. That's all.
Thank you very much. Attorney Miller, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, Detective Hernandez, a couple of questions. Did the owner, the manager, I'm sorry, the general manager cooperate with you?
Yes, sir, very cooperative that night.
And did you, when you were there, did you review a video showing the actually 4 of the 5 original individuals that were ID'd?
No, sir. I wasn't given the video till probably like a week later, but I did receive the video and I have reviewed it. And 4 out of the 5 individuals did show frauds on identification while they were there, and we are in the process of obtaining that.
And they did, and they denied to you ever showing identification, and they were uncooperative from what I gather with you and
Well, they
Detective.
denied. Correct. They denied having an identification. I wouldn't say they were uncooperative. I think they just were not letting us know that they had it, but we were clearly able to view it on your video.
You didn't, by any chance, when you were reviewing the video, happen to see the other person, the young woman, to see where she was in the other than when you confronted her? You didn't happen to see where she was in the premises, did you?
I didn't get that video, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, because we haven't been able to figure out where she got her drink. Thank you. I have no further questions. So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, as I said, 4 of the 5 were of these gentlemen were ID'd sitting at the bar. The 5th person joined them at the table. There was definitely a miscommunication with the staff as far as IDing, which that person came in later, sat down. The server thought had confirmed that they were ID'd, but didn't realize that the 4 of them and the 5th wasn't ID'd. Regardless, that's a problem which Mr. Touche and the general manager and Mr. Albajadi have addressed with the staff. We couldn't locate on the videos that we sent you where this other young woman got the drink, and we couldn't then determine that she had been carded. afternoon or evening. This was a wake-up call to the management, that this is a successor restaurant to what was there for a number of years, cafeteria. They've operated without incident since they've been open. The management staff and ownership went back to ground zero. They went through a vigorous training with the staff and required all the staff to be recertified TIPS training besides their management, besides the meetings with management. They also have had 2 meetings with the management staff to make sure that they are diligent in monitoring the staff to avoid anything like this happening. Mr. Tushin and Mr. Abajadi are here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you. I'll start with Chairwoman Joyce. Any questions of the licensee or the officers?
Yes, what is your policy about out-of-state or international IDs?
Do you want to address that, George, or do you want?
Yes, excuse me. Good morning, Chairwoman and members of the board. Thank you for having me here today. It is up to the discretion of the general manager, which is Christian. But he would need to be called to the table if there is an out-of-state or international ID. That is something that we just implemented now after this happened, because we understood that these were international identifications.
Okay, do you have anything to add, Christian?
Oh, Mr. Touche, you're on mute right now. Hang on a second. I just asked you to unmute. There we go.
You hear me now?
We can hear you now, yes.
Okay, sorry for that. The question, can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. So I understand these were Colombian IDs. So not
correct.
are they out of state, they're international IDs, and one of these patrons was actually 17. So I'd like to know what your policy is for accepting out of state and international IDs.
Very simple. Now we accept only physical passport, not picture passport, not ID from other country, driving license. We accept only the physical passport.
Not a college ID as a backup.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Curran.
Detective Hernandez, as the chair noted, one of these individuals was only 17. I just want for the record and my own knowledge, how young did they appear?
Very young. That's why they attracted us to that table on that first floor.
Yeah, but it wasn't like did they appear to be maybe of age, but just looking young, but they attract your attention, or do they appear to be teenagers?
It appeared to be very young, sir. Yes. That was the only reason we went to that particular table, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The remaining item before we move back to a second call is an informational hearing. The licensee is Unity Sports and Cultural Club, Inc., doing business as Unity Sports, located at 10 Dunbar Ave in Dorchester. This is an informational hearing regarding the licensee's security plan that was requested by the board following a licensed premise inspection hearing. This plan was requested on October 4th, 2023. It has been submitted, received, and shared with the commissioners, and the licensee is here today to walk through that plan and answer any questions the board may have. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning. This is Michael Ford representing the licensee. With me is Sean Cooper, who's Vice President and on the Board of Directors of Unity, and also handles floor supervision and security. And he was intimately involved in the revisions to the security plan. We updated it in light of what occurred on the 4th.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cooper, will you be the only person testifying in addition to your attorney for this security plan?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Just to make sure we have testimony regarding this under oath, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Chairman Joyce, do you have any thoughts at the outset, or shall we let the licensee walk us through the plan?
Please walk us through. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think that probably what makes the most sense is we really just to give you some of the highlights that you're going to hear. We updated any disturbances or physical altercations, and I think most importantly, dispersal of crowd and vehicular management. And what I think, because he is the master of the plan, I want to turn it over to Mr. Cooper to just sort of walk you through the bullet points that are there. And then if the pleasure of the board makes sense, you can hop in there and ask any questions under each one of these bullet points, if that works. Mr. Cooper, you want to begin and walk us through?
Okay, sorry, one moment. I'm just pulling up the document again. Okay, so the bullet points of, the ones that have changed. Control of clearance and licensed premises. Our security staff shall regularly patrol the immediate exterior of the restaurant and at least one of every 30 minutes or so on a random basis. Our security staff shall prevent any individuals from loitering on or in near the licensed premises after conclusion of any of our live events, if applicable. Security staff shall act reasonably and diligently to disperse loiterers or patrons who attempt to congregate in front of our premises, and shall take such steps as necessary to ensure that patrons do not leave premises with alcoholic beverages. Regarding dispersal procedure, food and drink orders can be made no later than 20 minutes prior to the bar and kitchen closing. House lights will come up about 15 minutes prior to the closing of the event, and to all allow patrons to settle checks and begin to exit the exiting process. All right, 10 minutes before closing, all music will be stopped and announcement will be made to inform patrons and they will where they will be exiting. At the end of any event, personnel will escort table guests and all remaining patrons to exit the premises. Doormen will remain outside of the door and will be joined by our security staff as patrons leave to ensure that the patrons leave the area in front of the door in an orderly fashion. We will direct patrons outside of the establishment to disperse Dunbar Avenue in an orderly fashion towards Moody Street. That's the street adjacent to Dunbar, which our building is on, and also Washington Street. Additionally, during the special events, security staff and personnel, excuse me, will direct traffic outside of the premises with the assistance of police details, utilizing horse saws to ensure that the traffic and the patrons disperse the area in an orderly fashion. Line management. Regarding line management, our manager of record, myself, and our staff will regularly patrol the licensed premises to ensure that patrons and the other members of the licensee's staff remain in compliance with these measures. In addition to our staff ensuring the patrons are leaving the premises in an orderly fashion, staff will also regularly monitor the number of guests attempting to enter and queuing from the front of the door for entry, and shall ensure that all patrons entering and queuing outside of our premises do not become unruly and maintain compliance with all rules and regulations, including these measures, and shall advise that persons not loiter outside and inside of the licensed premises to disperse the area immediately if no additional persons will be admitted to the premises at a given time. If a person fails to or refuses to comply with these requirements, excuse me, the license will not only will not allow the guests entry into our premises and will ask the guests to leave the licensed premises immediately. Michael, I don't know if you wanted us to continue on anything else. That's the changes.
I think those are the changes, and they were added to try to make it one cohesive document. I would add one other thing, as the board noted, we did give notice in compliance with the rules on October 12th about the professional security company that oversees these events and such, and that one person would be armed, so that the board has it, as well as the Boston Police Department.
That was acknowledged by the board last Thursday. Thank you.
All right. So I don't know if there's any questions where we could sort of fill in the gaps. You obviously don't want to read the rest, take up the time. So we're here at your pleasure.
Thank you. See if there are any questions. Chairwoman Joyce.
First, I want to say thank you. Thank you for putting the time into this. I can tell you really worked through some of the issues and heard the feedback from the board. I don't have any questions at this time.
Commissioner Curran.
I just have one concern. It's the language of the circumstances under which the police will be called. And it's just a comment more than anything. I think it might be a little unnecessarily limiting. Certainly you want to call the police when a crime has been occurred, but the idea that you only call the police in those circumstances, you should maybe err on the side of caution when you think something's about to occur. The police can always triage what you report is going on. So, we've been told by the police that, if you think something's going on, just call them and they can kind of figure out what level of emergency it is,
All right, I think we'll make that, obviously make that change.
It just feels limiting, and I don't think it should be, I think it should be a little more open-ended. That as I read it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Yeah, I think it's just rather nitpicky. Right at the top, you were saying that your staff is just going to just check around the grounds like every 30 minutes, but then you said it will be at random. So just make sure you're just clear with your staff whether it's every 30 minutes or actually random.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Anything further from the board? Thank you very much. The board will take this plan under advisement. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We are going to take a second call. Has anybody joined us on behalf of Redline Pizza? I do believe that there is a phone number that has joined this call on behalf of Redline Pizza. If so, could you please identify yourself?
Yes, sir. You hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, hello. We can hear you.
Sir, thank you, sir. My name is Muhammad Murad. I'm the owner and the manager for Redline Pizza.
Thank you for joining us. And who we read into the record, item number 7, A Pizza LLC, doing business as Redline Pizza, located at 580 to 582 Dorchester Ave in South Boston, dated the incident July 23rd, 2023. Premise operating after 11 p.m. closing hour in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 9. You are present on behalf of the licensee. Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective William Gallagher.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Detective Hernandez, if needed.
Thank you very much. And Mohammed, I understand that you are calling on a phone and we cannot see you. Can you please affirm to the board that you will raise your right hand when asked to do so?
I apologize, sir. I am type for the person. I didn't know how to use the social media and I don't know how to make the camera. I am so sorry about that.
That is fine. I understand you're not going to use a camera, but can you please just tell the board that you will raise your right hand when I ask you to do so?
Sure, sir.
Thank you. Can you please raise your right hand right now?
I do, sir.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
We do.
Yes, I do, sir.
Thank you very much. Sergeant Detective Gallagher, can you please read the police report into the record?
Yes, on 7/23/2023, At about 12:03 a.m., Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to licensed premise unit, responded to Red Line Pizza at 580 Dorchester Avenue for a constituent report of the premise staying open past its posted 11 p.m. closing. Detectives had been to Red Line Pizza in the past and have issued violations for the premise staying open past 11 p.m. These incidents were on 7/30/22, incident number 222-057-226, and on 9/3/22, incident number 222-067-546, and on 1/18/23, incident report number 232-004-749. As detectives pulled up, they observed double parked cars and a line of people waiting to order food. Detectives entered the premise and spoke to the clerk at the counter. Detectives informed him that Red Line Pizza has an 11 p.m. closing hour, and it was currently after midnight. Detectives asked to speak to the manager of record, Mr. Mohammed Murad, who arrived shortly after. Detectives informed Mr. Murad that he is only allowed to do delivery after 11 p.m. and till 2 a.m. There is to be no walk-in service after 11. Mr. Murad promptly ushered the remaining customers from his restaurant and spoke to his staff. As a result, what detectives had observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued a license premise inspection notice number 040228 to Red Line Pizza for premise operating after posted 11 p.m. closing. Mr. Murad signed for and accepted the notice. Those are the facts.
Thank you very much. Mr. Murad, would you like to address this alleged incident?
Is this all this true? Is this what happened, sir? But I'm sorry in the beginning, I am sorry my language not so well, but I try to do my best. Like my license until 11 p.m. and May I make extension for delivery from 11 p.m. until 2 a.m. And I have like some apps in the store like Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub. And after 11 o'clock, I don't leave nobody dining in the store. And I try when the driver coming from Uber or Uber Eats or DoorDash coming in to take the order. Like some people, they come in like they need slices or something. And me, I make many like fight. Please, guys, go out.
Mr. Murad,
like that.
Mr. Murad. Hi.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
My
Yes,
name is,
good
I'm
morning.
I'm the chair of the board. I think you're familiar with us. We've heard from you
You
several times. It seems to be the same story over and over. You've had a first warning or second warning and we've closed you down. My question is, do you intend to close at 11 p.m.? And if not, why are you not going through a public process to change your license? Because operating like this and not taking responsibility and blaming it on Uber Eats and on this and on that is only going to result in further punishment from the board. So you need to educate yourself about what you need to do to extend your license, or you're going to have to face the consequences and be repeatedly shut down by the board. So the choice is yours. We've heard this before. You've been before me multiple times now, and the story is the same. So you need to figure it out, yeah, there's not much more to add. You were refusing to follow the rules and to close on time.
Okay, ma'am. Can I explain you something, please? I try to fix my license until 2 a.m. for pickup, and like some people to pick up the food from inside. And I continue with one nice lady for the neighborhood for South Boston. And she tell me many steps, and I did. Like she tell me, like you cannot take the customer name and the address and the phone number, and you ask them like they like our service to continue after 11 p.m.
So what you need to do,
and I take like 500 signature with the phone and the address and everything, and I put front of the neighborhood like is making every month.
I hear you. So what I suggest you do is until you have that public process complete, you close at 11 so that you can show that you're being a good neighbor and that you know how to follow rules and not just doing whatever you want. If you want to get the community support, you should follow the rules now and ask for their support for you to stay open past 11 p.m. And then
Okay,
apply to extend
one
your
question,
license.
ma'am.
We have rules, we have
Like-
process, and we have regulations, and right now you're not following the rules. And you're operating outside our regulations, and it, quite frankly, it's a waste of my time.
Okay, miss, one question, please? Like after this meeting, like I can hire some lawyer or something to make this license for me, because I don't understand the law exactly, and my language doesn't help me too much. I can hire something like that. This is my question.
Yes, you can hire whoever
Okay,
you like. I think you were here before with your daughter who was helping you.
Yeah, my niece,
Okay,
yes.
I think you should take the time to figure out what you need to do, but I highly recommend you close at 11 p.m. This board is not going to take kindly to you, doing whatever you want and not following our rules. There will be repercussions, and we will continue to shut you down. And that is not going to be
Okay,
favorable on your part when it comes to getting the community support. So you need to follow the rules. If you don't understand them, you need to hire someone to explain them to you.
Okay, miss, like this is the last question, because I need to tell you what I understand exactly. Like now until like 11 p.m., I let the people come until 11 p.m. And from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m., there is nobody in, even no pickup, no nothing, only delivery. Correct?
I'm gonna have to ask Danny. I don't have your license in front of me.
That is what is stated on your license. It's 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. is delivery only.
Like after 2 a.m. no more? Because I have
After 2 a.m. is you are not allowed to do anything after 2 a.m. per your license. Currently, in premise service, it goes until 11 p.m. and then from 11 p.m. until 2 a.m. your license says delivery only.
Only, yes. And like if I do like these rules exactly, like from 11 p.m. until 2 a.m., nobody come in, only
Correct.
for delivery. This
That is
right,
correct.
sir?
That is what it says on your license, sir.
Okay, sir. Until I change the license. Okay, sir.
That means you need to
Okay.
close your door at 11 p.m. You can't let people walk in off the street.
Yes, ma'am. I close the door and I close the light. And like when I open the door and some drivers coming in to pick up the food from DoorDash or Uber Eats, like somebody come in, like that's it. This is my problem. This is my problem. That's it. When I I shut the light and I make all the chairs, nobody sit, and I shut the light and I close the door. And when I start to open the door, for some driver come to pick up the food, like some people come in too. This
Oh,
this
they
is my
rush
problem.
in? You have like a line of people that rush in when Uber comes to the door, you're saying?
Yes. Yes, miss. I
just
swear
don't,
my
I
God.
don't know if I can wrap my head around that. I'll have to go out there myself some night and check out the throngs of
Okay.
people trying to get in your door with Uber Eats. It
Yes.
just doesn't seem believable.
And this, and I have like one more example, and I can try to fix this with an inspection building in the city hall, and I try to do window outside, and I don't let anybody come in after 11.
Sergeant Gallagher, did you want
Yes.
to say something?
Yeah, Madam Chair, when we go there, the door's unlocked and there's no one at the door and people just keep walking in. If he kept the door locked, I believe he has one delivery driver and, just open the door when these people come. But I mean, the door is constantly open. So people think it's open. They see the delivery guy or the Uber Eats guy go in and they just follow him right in. So if the door was locked and closed, or there was a sign that stated no customers after 11 p.m. allowed in the store, that would be good. And the other issue we have is, listen, people can't call from down the street and say, listen, I want to pick up a pie. You have to deliver it. There should be no one coming in there but the Uber Eats guys and his delivery driver. But like I said, the door is constantly open. So whenever we go in there, there's always people, even when we're in there talking to them, they just keep on walking in.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's see if there are any questions from Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon.
No,
This is
thank you,
Commissioner-
sir.
Sir?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm
This is
sorry.
Commissioner Curran. My question for you is, do you recall the last time we had a hearing and we discussed all of this in the same detail?
Yes, but last time I was overseas and I just came like from 2 weeks only.
Sir,
I am overseas
we discussed
yes.
all this, closing at 11, not letting anyone else in, possibly posting someone at the door so it could stay locked. You said you understood all of that the last time. You're just repeating all of this again, right?
No, sir. That's why I take new steps and I continue with the lady.
What new
for
steps
the
have you taken?
neighborhood.
What new steps have you taken to close at 11?
Like I continue with the lady for the neighborhood like from 5, 6
No,
months ago.
that's not closing at 11. What steps have you taken to close your door at 11?
I don't understand. I'm sorry.
What steps have you taken to close your door at 11?
Yeah, the steps like I close the light, I close the door, and I make all the chairs, nobody sit in, and only this is the steps. And me, I was overseas for 2.5 months, and I just came. The steps, the next
Sir,
steps,
that's not
what
an
I do.
excuse.
Yeah, no, this what I will do. I will hire somebody like a lawyer to run behind the
No,
walls and
you need to hire an employee who will lock the door at 11 p.m.
I understand. Yes, I understand.
That's all you need
now,
to
sir.
do.
Okay.
And if you
Until I
can't
fix my
handle
license.
from 11 to 2, you need to stop doing business until you can handle it in the way that we're telling you you need to handle it.
Okay, I understand. Okay, sir. Okay.
So if
I
you can't
understand.
keep, and this is, I'm being very clear. If you can't keep the public out after the hour of 11 p.m. and you still want to do business, but you can't keep them out, the option is to stop doing business, not to continue to do business and continuing to let the public come in.
Okay. I understand, sir. Okay.
Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions related to this incident?
No, this is just a massive case of deja vu. And so, I mean, I think there was even a discussion about putting a table right at the door so that there would just be a physical barrier so that people won't be able to just barge right in. So I think there's some pretty easy ways of keeping people out. And I'm just surprised that we're right back in the same place where we were a couple of months ago.
And stay tuned, Commissioner, because they're on again. We can go through it all again.
Yes, that's the next item as well. Anything further from the board on this item before we move on to the next one?
Not on this item.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement, and we're now calling item number 8, Aya Pizza LLC, the same licensee doing business as Red Line Pizza, located at 580 to 582 Dorchester Ave in South Boston. Date of this incident was September 20th, 2023. Premise open after 11 p.m. in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 9, and failure to post licenses in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 9. Mr. Murad, I'm assuming you are representing Red Line Pizza on this item as well?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I am Detective Hernandez.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify?
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you. You have all been sworn in. Detective Hernandez, if you could please read the police report into the record.
Good morning, sir. I'll be reading from a report which Sergeant Gallagher wrote on 9/20/2023 at about 11:30 p.m. Sergeant Detective Gallagher and Detective Hernandez signed to the license permission unit were dropping off a hearing notice from the City of Boston Licensing Board to Red Line Pizza at 580 Dorchester Avenue. When detectives entered the premise, they observed customers standing in line waiting to place orders. Sergeant Detective Gallagher asked the clerk behind the counter what time did they close. The clerk stated 2 to 2:30. Sergeant Detective Gallagher then asked to speak to the manager. Mr. Ihab Muharos made himself known. Sergeant Detective Gallagher informed Mr. Muharos that he was here to deliver a notice for an upcoming hearing notice at City Hall. The hearing scheduled for was for operating after posted 11 p.m. closing on Red Line's common victual license. Signed, Detective Gallagher informed Mr. Morehouse that until he secured a later closing hour, there is to be no walk-ins or phone-ins unless food is delivered. Mr. Morehouse stated he would take corrective action and close the door to the applicants. As a result of what was observed, Signed, Detective Gallagher issued license premises inspection notice 040-263 to Red Line Pizza for premise operating after 11 p.m. closing hour. Failure to post required licenses, expired ISD certificate, which expired 9/1/23. Mr. Ehab Muharas signed for an accepted notice. That is all, and we already have noted the other 4 incident numbers prior to this.
Thank you. Mr. Murad, would you like to address this? Oh, he appears to have dropped off of the hearing.
Well, I'm gonna make a note for the record. His website says that he's open on Friday and Saturdays till 2:45 a.m. And pickup is until 2:30, Monday through Thursday, Friday, Saturday till 2:45, and Sunday 2:30. So it's my understanding it's only delivery. People can't call from down the street and then walk in, so he has to change his website.
I think we noted that maybe previous hearings, right?
I think we did
Website
too,
issue.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Still,
He hasn't changed at all.
Yeah.
It's a huge, he gets a lot of business with the Red Line and the lack of nothing in the area that, for him not to let these walk-ins come in the door, he's shooting himself in the foot money-wise, so he just continues to do it. He probably gets the bulk of his business with the late night after bar crowd.
Thank you. With the licensee no longer with us, are there any remaining questions for Sergeant Detective Gallagher or Detective Hernandez regarding this incident? No. Anything further from the board? Those are all of the items before the board today, so that will adjourn today's hearing. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.